All right, we roll on with Joel Klatt standing by and me sitting here holding my SEC flag very, very passively to the right side.
Is it a half staff?
I'm not waving it today as we get ready to play a national championship for the first time in 9 years without a team from the greatest conference ever in college football.
Yeah, will this one count, Klatt, since an SEC team's not in it? Do we still count this one?
Not for you guys down there. You guys don't count anything that doesn't involve the SEC.
Yeah. I read where ESPN is actually just going to rerun last year's championship game in the Deep South here, so we don't have to watch what we're going. Everybody's going to watch Georgia destroy TCU again.
I bet. I was actually starting to think of like a Washington win and what that would mean, and I'm almost certain that Texas in 2005 is the last team to win a national championship that didn't have to beat an SEC team either in the national championship or in a semifinal, en route.
Holy crap.
Wow.
That is crazy to think about there now.
A lifetime ago.
I mean, right, though? Like, that makes sense, right?
Florida won it in 6 and 8, and since then it's been SEC heavy.
9 was Alabama, 10 was Auburn, 11 was Alabama beating LSU, 12 was Alabama.
But even
13.
even when Ohio State or when Clemson or when Florida State won, they would have to beat an SEC team either in the championship or on the way. Yeah. Ohio State beat Bama in the semifinal. Washington, if they win, will have not had to beat an SEC team.
That is pretty crazy. Wow, great stat, Klatt. I'm glad we brought you on. Klatt joins us.
They did beat Oregon twice. That had a lot of SEC players and an SEC coach.
SEC adjacent.
Yes.
Geography. Yeah. They got Lanning, and it's like, okay, so it's adjacent.
Yeah.
It's adjacent.
It may be in the Pacific time zone, but they're cooking with SEC ingredients.
There you go.
Lanning makes them observe Central Time, guys. Right. We're not operating Pacific. We're operating on Central Time. Joel Klatt joins us each week, courtesy of MyBookie.ag. Code next round to get that sign-on bonus at MyBookie.ag. Code next round. So we were traveling yesterday. I did not get to see this, but people in the chat room wanted us to pick your brain a little bit on what you said, I believe, with Colin yesterday, that Jim Harbaugh actually contacted his brother John, the NFL coach of the Ravens, for some help on this game. Can you tell us more about that?
Yeah, it wasn't specifically on this game.
Okay.
It was a more overarching thought. So COVID happens. Jim's going to lose his job. He needs a defensive coordinator, and they need to change their program in a major way. And he did it specifically targeting Ohio State. He had to beat Ohio State. And so he called John and he said, I need your defense. I need to run your defense. It's a long story that gets to this game, trust me. But and so John says, yeah, great. I've got 2 young guys that have been analysts and been around our organization, and I think that they're both really good. Take one of them. And he says, okay, send them out, and I'll interview them, and then I'll pick one. Well, those 2 guys were Mike McDonald and Jesse Minter.
Wow.
And so he decides on Mike, but even within the process calls John and says, either I love them both. And so they kind of decide, well, let Mike go and do that, and then Jesse can go down and he can start getting his teeth cut in the college level at Vanderbilt. McDonald goes back to Baltimore after that first year at Michigan and becomes the coordinator for the Ravens. Now he's obviously done a great job, and Jesse comes back to Michigan. And so they're running the exact same defense, and it's these 2 young guys now that are the 2 coordinators of the best defenses in football on each of the levels. And I think the thing that's interesting is that the entire scheme of the defense, the process of the defense was specifically changed, and really the whole complementary nature of the program, how they're going to play offense, how they're going to play special teams, even though they played atrocious special teams in the Rose Bowl. The entire complementary kind of boa constrictor defense with levels and hard edges and difficult to get big plays on. It was specifically built to beat Ohio State. And the specific Ohio State team that they were targeting to try to beat was the one with C.J. Stroud, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson Smith, and Jigba. And it just, I've been around, obviously, Michigan. I've covered them 15 times in the last 3 years or more, maybe. And it's not lost on me that they're basically facing the exact team that they were built to beat in this Washington team, you know? So, and then let's take it a step further. Go back to the 21 Ohio State Michigan game. It's not even that they had to stop that offense, because they didn't actually. Stroud threw it for almost 400 yards. It was like 370 plus, I believe, in that game. A couple of touchdowns. Those three wide receivers that I've just mentioned prior went for 28 combined catches for over 320 yards. The difference is that Michigan's entire operation limited Ohio State to 10 possessions. So what it does is it increases the impactful nature of any stop that you get, any third down stop that you get, any turnover, whatever happens, all of a sudden it increases the odds of you going out there and winning. And then on the opposite side, they were able to run the football to the tune of, 15 out of 16 plays in the fourth quarter, 20 out of 24 snaps in the second half. So that's the 21 Ohio State Michigan game. They win it going away, even with Stroud and those receivers doing what they did. It just, I can't get that game and the construction of these two programs out of my mind, and that's why I'm favoring Michigan in this game. Texas was a great matchup for Washington. Michigan is a terrible matchup for Washington.
I was not surprised, because I asked you the question about Michigan's defensive line. I expected them to have a lot of sacks in this game. I expected them to disrupt Alabama's offensive line. I did not expect Michigan's great offensive line to manhandle Alabama's front seven like they did on the edges, because that's, to me, where the game ended up being played by Michigan, a lot on the edges in that short passing game. Talk to me what you thought Michigan exposed in Alabama in this game right here.
Yeah, it was interesting. There wasn't a lot of interior run.
Right.
It's not like they just they bludgeoned them, down the middle. No. It was actually creativity, speed, and edge rushing that hurt Alabama. Formations, adjustments. I thought they did a remarkable job. Sharon Moore, who likely is going to be your Michigan head coach moving forward when if Jim goes to the NFL, he did a great job of giving a structure to the Saban defense, okay? Like a 2x2 structure with a back, offset to the short side of the field. And then he would bounce or shift into a 3x1 to the wide side, then bounce the back over to the wide side of the field. And so now all of a sudden it's technically speaking a 4x1. And Bama wasn't adjusting. And they kept running kind of the man coverage, and then all of a sudden they were able to get outside. So they did a really good job of that. In fact, when they got stagnant in the third quarter, I thought it was a result of them trying to be hard-headed and run on the interior, in particular on first down, and they would get off schedule and get into second and long. And that's when Bama mounted their comeback and did a really good job in the third quarter. But the other part that I just and I know this is wild to say, and it's just an observation. It certainly doesn't ring true, for every matchup, because the SEC dominated the Big Ten in bowl season. Michigan was the faster team, and I think guys. Do you think that was? I'm sure that was surprising to Bama fans.
It was stunning to me, because I have watched. Here's what jumped out at me, and this is not necessarily faster. Maybe it is. I don't know. I have watched SEC team after SEC team take awful angles on Jalen Milroe, awful angles, and him beat the angle every single time, and he struggled to do that against Michigan. I was so impressed at the way they hemmed him in for the most part of that game.
Isaiah Bond.
Well, and he was really their only offense. I don't want to say only offense, but the quarterback read run game was really all that Bama had. They could get no separation with their wide receivers. And that wide receiver room for 2 straight years now has been a huge problem for Alabama.
That was my takeaway, that Isaiah Bond, who had grown into the alpha in that room in the year, he had 4 catches, 47 yards. One of them was really big, great throw from Milroe. Other than that, I think that was 29 yards. Other than that, he couldn't get open. Talking about speed,
That's right.
The Alabama guys couldn't get open for Milroe to throw it to, and when they did, he didn't have time to throw it to him.
Yeah, they couldn't handle the stunts up front. The Michigan pass rush, isn't necessarily. I wouldn't say that there's one in particular great pass rusher, but they rush as a collective really well, and I think that you saw that they blitz in timely spots. It was a great game, guys. I mean, I tell you what. I mean, Bama could have easily won that game. Easily won that game, and that's what made it such a great matchup.
I want to go to the last play. Joel Klatt is with us, Fox Sports, and he joins us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline, courtesy of MyBookie.ag, code next round, MyBookie.ag, code next round. As I've looked at some people break this down now, I've convinced myself that the play was an option play, that Milroe had the option to run if the numbers supported that, but they obviously had a pass to the back set up on the outside there, Klatt. The back.
Could it be true? Could it be true that yes, that is technically the structure of the play, but there was no intent to read it?
And that may be the case, but everybody's pointing at no. Saban said they ran the play called, and I think what you've got here is Saban's in a little bit of a trap that if he comes into that press conference and say no, there was actually a pass play called. But
Jalen's in a heap of trouble.
Jalen's in a heap of trouble, or Seth McLaughlin, because you could say the snap is what screwed it up. So Jalen was like, I don't have time to read the pass. I've just got to pick it up and try to make something on this run. So what
I think that's accurate.
Yeah, I think what Nick Saban is doing is what coaches should do. Is he's going to let him and Tommy Rees take the blame, and it's not necessarily fair to Tommy Rees, but he's the $1 million coach.
There is some blame on the coaches, and we can talk over both. I think everything you said is accurate, and this is one of the reasons why, everyone says that I'm a SEC hater or a Bama hater. I love Nick Saban. I love the way he operates. I love the fact that he protected his players in that setting. Like not every coach would do that. Let's just say it that way, right? There's a lot of CYA out there, and he didn't. So now, where can you blame the coaches? And this is more Tommy, less Nick. The formation's totally wrong to run that concept. And while the thought of Milroe is correct, the way they got to it, totally incorrect. If you're going to run Jalen Milroe, the most effective way that they had done that is in the interior counter or power scheme. They did it, by the way, late in the fourth quarter on one of their touchdown drives. They ran, I think it was like a 14-yard rush. Don't know why you would probably know, because you're good on play-by-play, 12 or 13 yards that got them down inside the 5. It was a first down.
Yep.
It was 14.
Yeah.
That's the play that, in my mind, I'm like, that's what they should come back with. Okay, so let's talk big picture here and just try to remember the formation. It's a 3-by-1, but the 3 includes an attached tight end. Okay, so there's a tight end to that left side. He should have been flexed for sure. The fact that he's not bails out the man coverage for Michigan, because the man defender on the tight end can now be also a run defender. If the tight end is flexed out, it forces Michigan to declare everything that they're doing. It forces Mike Sainristil, who is the nickelback who wants to blitz, he's got to make a decision. Am I blitzing to the outside of the flex tight end, or am I going to be inside of the flex tight end? You see, so you're forcing Michigan to declare leverage based on your leverage. So that's the first mistake, was the formation. The second was you've got to provide some sort of horizontal stretch to that front if you want to run to the interior with your quarterback. They tried to do it with a pre-snap motion or at the snap motion with the back, which is fine, but it doesn't really impact the front. It impacts one defender who's in man. You're not trying to just take a defender out of the box. You're trying to create seams. What they should have done is flex the tight end and then run the wide zone read play, the stretch zone read play, where he can either give the ball or take it back up the middle. It does a lot of different things. It forces the blitzing nickelback Sainristil to have to pause. It allows the timing of the backside tackle or guard who's pulling to really set things up. If the tight end is flexed, now that man defender is in a huge problem, because if he jumps inside, now they're hooked and you can give the ball and it's a race to the pylon. So to me, that's like the fail from Tommy was in the formation and the way he tried to horizontally stretch the defense. The call to get Jalen Milroe the ball is not wrong. I just feel like having an attached tight end, and if the read is a swing pass or a quarterback power, I hate it.
Yeah, it also gives him the time to read and see where the gap may be as he doesn't hand it off to go to the right place. It did look like they were pulling a guard into that block.
That's right. There was a puller, but man, I mean, and Jalen panicked a little bit after the low snap, and he didn't see the cut to the left, and I'm sure Bama fans are frustrated with it. But those are my thoughts on that play. Well, I think by the way, that was going to be a tough play.
Yeah.
Because of the front, right? Like Michigan's the better team at the line of scrimmage, and you've got 4th and goal from the 3 with a team that really can't throw. That's like super low percentage at that point.
There are very few games in the Nick Saban era where Alabama couldn't get 3 yards that they needed, but that was one of them, and that's why it was going to be so tough no matter what play.
Or couldn't stop 2 yards when they needed to.
No, you're right. You're right.
Which is why I thought when Michigan scored, I thought they were going to go for 2. To be honest with you,
I did too.
To win it 21-20.
Yeah, I thought Harbaugh would go for 2.
But think of it this way: if you're an underdog with a team that's not the better team, you go for 2 because you're like, this is it. This is our chance. We've got to do it. I think Jim knew. No, we're the better team. We're better at the line of scrimmage. They can't throw it. The only thing that I would have been nervous about if I was Jim Harbaugh was my field goal unit.
Yeah. I know. It's so bad.
Other than that, like I think he felt like we're the better team. The longer we play, the more of a chance we have to win.
I liked Michigan in overtime. Once it got to overtime, I liked Michigan. The one thing to your point, Klatt, is Alabama had a kicker that I think he could have kicked 100 times and was not going to miss on Monday night. And to
the punt team alone almost won the game for him.
I know. And
Alabama's punt team was incredible.
And if Alabama got a hold, any sort of hold, and forced a field goal, literally anything was on the table at that point for Michigan. Yeah. But if Alabama kicked, the game was over because I don't think Riker was going to miss. That guy, he was dialed in.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was also surprised. Michigan, I know that they had just gone down the field, but they had not run the ball in the second half at all. And in overtime, it was just like, 2 run plays and score on Bama. I was like, whoa, that was way too easy.
All right, he is Joel Klatt of Fox Sports. He now turns his attention to the draft. So a lot of draft coming out from Joel Klatt here.
Who do you guys like Monday?
I like Michigan. LT likes Washington. I think he's leaning Washington. He hasn't said yet.
I think I'll go Michigan, too. I mean, just watching them, man, that defense is incredible. I thought it might have been a touch overrated based on opponents, but it is not. They are so good.
It's certainly not. I would say this, like they are specifically built to beat Washington. Bama was actually the bad matchup for them.
Yeah.
I thought of all the teams, and Washington got the best draw possible with Texas because of Texas's poor secondary. Like Washington had a great draw, and they won the game. Michigan had a bad draw, won the game, and now I think Michigan is a terrible matchup for Washington because they're built specifically to beat Ohio State, and Washington is a version of Ohio State. Right, they were built to beat the 21 Ohio State team with Stroud and Smith and Jigba and those guys, and so I think it's going to be interesting. By the way, in that 21 game, Ohio State threw it for over 370 yards. Those 3 wide receivers had 28 catches for 320 plus yards. There's a scenario where Penix throws it for 365 and they still lose, just like Stroud did in 21. Because Michigan will limit them to 10 possessions and just kind of like choke the life out of them in all the other areas. That's why I'm kind of leaning towards Michigan.
Yeah, that breakdown is exactly why I'm leaning towards Michigan, because I think Penix could have that kind of night and still lose the football game.
Yeah.
All right, Klatt, thank you very much, buddy. We'll see you next time.
I really appreciate you guys. I do.
We appreciate you. It was good. It was good seeing you.
I love coming on down in SEC country.
Oh.
Yeah, we didn't get to bump into you, but we did see a great picture of you and your family at the game at the Rose Bowl. So it was.
You guys had like field passes.
Well,
very fancy.
I hate to.
It was
brag.
Beautiful. I do love that place. I'm not sure I would feel that way if I was a fan, but as a media person, and I rode in non-media shuttle. gets a little congested there as it does around many big events.
Gosh, the complaining.
Yeah.
It is a tent pole event. Like,
yeah.
And college football doesn't have a destination. We don't have a great champion. Like, it should be the national championship. There's, without a doubt, it should be the destination for all of college football every single year. No questions asked.
It's how we got our field passes. I walked in, I was like, Joel Klatt and Kirk Herbstreit are right about this place. Yeah. And they're like, oh, here's your field pass, sir. Thank you.
You're part of the Rosanati.
How do you think I got to sit in a suite?
That's why we're getting a T-shirt calling it the Rosanati.
That's right.
That's what we're doing. Yeah. We'll send you one, of course.
I would wear it proudly.
Yes. Thank you, Joel.
See you, Klatt.
I appreciate you guys.
All right,
See
buddy. You too. Klatt with us on the JohnstonRVCenter.com hotline. He joins us courtesy of MyBookie.ag. Code next round to get that sign-on bonus at MyBookie.ag.